Hi everyone, I'm Zach with the Money Channel, and I think it's best that we dive into it. As an overview, CNBC has reported Jamie Dimon says the banking crisis is not over and will cause repercussions for years to come. Specifically, the long-time JP Morgan Chase CEO has said in his annual letter the current crisis is not yet over, and even when it is behind us, there will be repercussions from it for years to come.
To refinance again at 3% someday. There just seems to be endless buyer demand because there's absolutely no fear. Sure, real estate has cooled off some since its hyperinflationary levels, but it's only come down a smidge in comparison to how much and how fast it went up. I've been waiting and waiting and waiting to buy something, but it just never seems to correct meaningfully, and the demand is still strong as ever where I'm looking. If 7% interest rates and 6% inflation isn't going to meaningfully bring down home prices, then it makes me ask myself what will. Maybe I should just buy now because this is the new normal. Pretty sure the crash is just waiting on you to close. I closed in April 2022 and was told numerous times on this sub that I had bought at the peak and made a mistake. Should have waited for the crash, but I bought because life circumstances pointed to me being ready. I also received a personal injury settlement from a car accident I was in, and those types of settlements are tax-free, and that boosted my savings enough to jump in. I needed to stay in my area near aging parents, and until my stepson is at least 18, he's 12 now, so the timing seemed to make sense. I got a 3-bed, 2-bath 1964 ranch house with a garage on a quiet street for $250,000, 3.5% down at 3.8% interest, and even though my house is the most expensive in the area, it's my hope that the surroundings will catch up and I'll possibly make a little equity in my time here. But who knows, I don't think about the investment aspect much, just that I have a stable home. All this to say, if you feel ready, if you will be there, go for it. Only you know the best time for you. Best wishes. I have a friend who bought in 2020 and was told and was afraid that it was the absolute peak at the time. In my area, home prices had gone up drastically in the 5 years before that. He was afraid it would drop 30%, which it would have put in line with historical prices again, and he'd be underwater and unable to sell. Now if it drops 30%, he still makes a profit. I bought a house in 2018. I was worried I was buying at the top then, and there were many indicators showing that I might be getting ready to take a bath. Obviously, hindsight is 2020 and it only went up from then to now. You got a great deal. Townhouses on my street with the same are going to 350k, that is double when we bought. Single family homes start at around 400k. Don't I wish we had those prices again. Thanks though, I had to move away from my hometown to a place that mostly people don't like to live to get it. I am an Austin, Texas native, and the prices and taxes in Austin were just too much for me. I have a good job with good benefits at the local university, but it isn't a tech salary, so I didn't have enough. I went a bit over an hour north to Killeen, Texas, a military-based town, to find something more reasonable. There are definitely no 250k homes in Austin. It's a sacrifice I wish I didn't have to make, and I do more driving now, but it is what it is. Some things we have to give up to meet a long-term goal. Insert future date here is definitely when it's going to crash, mark my words. House like stock now. Anyway, I'm just tired of these kinds of posts every day. House price predictions going up, down, crash, whatever. I actually withdraw completely from the market. Financially, it makes sense for us due to owning equals 3 times renting, and we just feel nice to build wealth than buying now and dwindling our savings investment. But at least now we don't question the future price, let it roll. We'll buy maybe next year with way more cash down. Price might go up or down, but might be not going anywhere substantially to change our financial picture in a year or so. Never say never, but it does seem like most buyers these days are using 2008 as their reference point for a crash. Housing market downturns have historically not been as dramatic since 08, occurred during a unique set of circumstances. You may see a regional slowdowns, but if another global downturn like 2008 happens again, it's probably safe to assume most people wouldn't be in a position to buy a home anyway. Everybody would be unemployed and their assets would get clobbered. Literally anybody under the age of 35. Most of Reddit only has 2008 as a point of reference for a housing crisis and incorrectly deduce any downturn in the housing market looks like that. A lot of people are shocked to find out that there was a recession in the 90s. Agreed, there's a whole generation out there that believe 2008 is part of the cyclical housing cycle. Spot on. Our generation has registered recession with housing collapse as if they're tethered to each other. The 2008 recession occurred because real estate lending was absolutely wacky. The root causes have been addressed with legislation and better practice within the industry. This recession isn't caused by real estate, and prices dropping won't be a primary symptom of the recession, rather a secondary one, because the primary causes didn't have any impact on pricing to begin with. Anyone comparing today's market with 2008 needs to watch The Big Short. Banks aren't lending like they were in 2008. I was a realtor in Vegas at that time, and a big part of why that situation even happened is because like 75% of the homes weren't even owner occupied. It was just people buying homes and then sitting on them to try and flip them 6 months later or after they were done being built. A huge majority of the homes over the past 3 years are all owner occupied. That makes all the difference in the world. The likelihood of people defaulting on their mortgages en masse isn't high. In 2008 it was because all of the non-owner occupied homes that the investors just let sit there, and they didn't care if they defaulted because they weren't even living in it. The biggest difference is that when the crash was happening, interest rates were crashing through the floor and housing prices were collapsing, and there was still excess inventory everywhere. We have the opposite now, higher interest rates and low inventory. The price decreases are because interest rates have made them so unaffordable that something had to keep them sales going. I suppose it's possible there's still a crash incoming, though I doubt it, but regardless, it won't be anything like 2008. The causes will be totally different. Maybe, but a lot of the inventories in cities and the surrounding areas were turned into Airbnbs, depending on how interest rates and the fact that Airbnb is awful these days shakes out. It could result in a crash if the investment fails and they sell, flooding the market with cheap inventory, or it could just keep jacking up the rental prices, increasing the cost of living, and continue making it impossible for people to buy houses as it has in the past couple of years. Yeah, I just don't buy the whole crash thing. It just seems like wishful thinking for people hoping that the lower housing prices of yesteryear will return. Another big factor in 2008 was a bunch of ARMs changing off their teaser and causing defaults. Banks aren't handling those out like candy anymore. It's because they're now required to underwrite the later highest possible payment under the terms of the loan. If UW shows you cannot afford that, then they simply cannot give you the loan with the lower teaser rate. I don't think we have a massive pool of loans that are rate adjustable with a waiter claiming they earn $12k a month. 2008 was a perfect storm of hype, cheap money, greed, more hype, greed, easy money, and on and on. I do think there will be pain to be felt for 2 decades of very cheap money policy, but I don't think it will be a housing collapse and global financial crisis. If you're in a position to buy now and you plan on living there long term, I would definitely say go for it. Closing on a house in a week that took me 5 months to find. There's zero inventory where I live. I got a 5.75% 30-year rate, which isn't bad considering. I reluctantly bought my dad's home in 2021 for pennies on the dollar. My wife and I got us a 2% 30-year rate from our credit union. I don't think we'll ever move. This is in Cerritos, California. Whoa, I wasn't sure if someone was going to chime in on this thread telling us about their 2% interest rate they got and that they're never moving. Thanks. These people really think that people who are struggling to buy a house with a 6 to 7% interest rate want to hear about their 2 to 3% rate and that they're never moving. I'm really sorry that wasn't my intention. I wanted to emphasize the year we bought it, 2021, and how quickly these rate hikes took place and screwed a lot of folks, especially the up-and-comings. Where are you buying? Ventura County, California. Wow, zero inventory in Ventura. Now that tells you a lot. He ain't lying. My parents are looking to move back to Ventura, and it's true there is not a lot out there. A 3-2 in the flats of Ventura is probably $800k and up, and they go fast. I miss Ventura so much. My mom grew up there, and now that I moved to LA, she's totally moving back down. I can't wait. Ventura is where I'd live if I could, but my husband's job tethers us to big cities. There will be no crash. I'm finally in a position to maybe potentially benefit from such an event, rendering it a complete impossibility. You're welcome. Housing moves slowly. The timescale is years, not days like stocks. Every transaction requires someone to contemplate moving, find a realtor, go to open houses, make offers, close, move, etc. All of this takes time. Also, inflation would cause home prices to rise. If you and I both get raises, we have more money available to purchase a home on a nominal basis at least.